Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to um, manipulate data by dragging it around. Then I'm going to cover again copy, cut, and pasting, and then we're going to go over the autofill functionality. But before we do that, go to Excel VBA SQL. You could watch 20 hours of free Excel video lessons, put your email in here, and sign up for free emails of videos and contact me here. Okay, let's get started. So let's go to Excel. I'm going to double click Excel. And let me close this down. Let me do that again because I already had an Excel open. Okay, so in a previous video we saw that we had some data. So let me enter some data. I'm going to enter a city here, New York and San Fran and Paris. And then I'm going to enter population. So I just want to have some data on my worksheet. And I'm just going to enter 9 million, I don't know, 5 million, 4 million. So now I have some data on my worksheet. And what I want to show you first is how to move this data by dragging it. So to drag data, you want to select a range of cells. Now, if you click on a cell, you just selected one cell. And to drag one cell, you see when you hover over the border of that cell, those crosshairs come up right there. See those crosshairs, those 4 arrows? Those crosshairs mean you can now click on that and move that cell over here or wherever you want. So again, if you select any cell, so if I select this cell again that contains the word city, I want to hover over it until I see those crosshairs, and then I can drag it wherever I want. Right now I'm dragging it around, but because I haven't lifted up my mouse, it's not putting it there. If I lift up my mouse here, it puts it right there in cell C4. Again, look for those crosshairs, and that allows you to drag and move things, move a selected range anywhere you want. So let's put it back over here. Okay, so that's for a single cell. What about multiple cells? What if you have a huge amount of data that you want to drag and move somewhere? Well, it's real easy. You just select a range. Remember how you select a range. You click on a cell, and then you want to drag your mouse, or if you have a mouse pad, you want to move your finger on your mouse pad to select a range of cells, and you'll see that the range of cells is highlighted here, and that means that is your selection. So now if I pick up my finger on my mouse, I have a highlighted group of cells. And now I can do the same thing. I could go to the border and try to find to get those crosshairs. So now I have those crosshairs over here, over here. Once you have the crosshairs, you can then drag that whole selection wherever you want. So this is pretty frequently used when you're using Excel. You want to move data from here to there, or from this area over to this area, and you could do it that quickly. The key thing about it is the selecting of the range. So you really have to understand what a range is and how to select it. And again, to select a range, you just click on a cell, and then you click on the cell, hold down your left mouse key, the left click of your mouse, hold it down, and then move your mouse or your mouse pad or whatever. So you hold it down, and now you can select a range. You click on a cell, hold down the left mouse key, and then move your mouse or your mouse pad. That will allow you to select multiple cells, and this is called a range of cells. So once you do that, then you just look for the crosshairs, and you could move it wherever you want. It's pretty powerful, pretty easy. And if you have a big range, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could select a huge range like this. Notice that I could select a range starting from the upper right, moving down or across, or moving back up. You could do it any way you want. You just have to select the cell, hold down your left mouse click, and then go up, down, sideways, wherever, and you're going to be able to select a range. Once you do that, you can find those crosshairs and then you can move things. Notice if I try to move that selected range over some text, like in this case, so let's see what's happening here. So here I have a range, and I'm gonna try to move it over here, but I'm trying to overwrite some of that text. So if I try to do that, Microsoft Excel will pop up an error and it'll say, do you want to replace the contents of the destination cells? And if I click OK, then it's going to clear out all this data. So if I click OK, it clears it out. Let me go back here. So I'm going to click the undo. If I click no, so if I try to do that again, if I click cancel here, then it won't move that range to where I dragged it. So it'll just go back to where I selected it from. So Microsoft Excel is smart. It knows that you might not know that you're copying over some cells, and it wants to alert you and say, hey, you have this range here, the one I have highlighted. You're trying to drag it over some data. Do you really want to do that? So Microsoft Excel is pretty smart. It can alert you to a lot of things. And in this case, usually you want to select cancel because you don't want to overwrite data. So you just select cancel and it won't overwrite it. Okay, so that is how to drag things. And it's very, very frequently used. If you're an Excel user, you're going to have to know how to do that. The next thing I want to talk about, and I put up a video about entering, editing, and deleting data, and I briefly touched on using the cutting, copying, and pasting of data, but I want to cover it again because it's critical that you are familiar with it. So I'm going to write a couple columns here. And I also put up a video on keyboard shortcuts. And I didn't include these three because that video I put up on keyboard shortcuts was more about maneuvering around the worksheet, going from this cell to that cell and things like that. So you should watch that video, but I didn't put these in there. And I want to put these in there. So okay, so what is a keyboard shortcut? Well, a keyboard shortcut means if you press some keys on your keyboard, then something will happen. That's all a keyboard shortcut is. So you have a control key on your keyboards. It's CRTL, and I'm just going to highlight these cells. So I'm going to select a range, and I'm going to go up here to this format, or actually this font area, and I'm just going to do the background. I'm going to make them yellow because this is important. You should know these by heart. So if you're going in for a job interview or something, people definitely could ask you, how do you copy data or cut data? So if you want to copy data, the keyboard shortcut is Control C. So you hold down the Control key of your keyboard, and then you also hold down the C key of your keyboard, and this copies data. Oops. If you want to, so let's do that. If I select this range and I press Control C, that's what this keyboard shortcut does. If I do that, you get the border that starts moving. It starts like moving around. There's now a moving border, and that's alerting you that this is a range that you have selected to copy. And once you do that, you can then select another cell. So if I select A7, you can now paste it. And how do you paste it? Well, that's Control V. So now let's press Control V, and that just pasted the data. So that's what Control V does. It pastes data. And now one more keyboard shortcut is Control X here, and that cuts data. So what is cutting versus copying? Well, cutting, if I highlight this data and I do Control X, I press Control down on my keyboard and then I press the X key. Again, you get this selection with a border that's moving. And now if you select another cell like we did before and you press Control V, it's going to paste the data there. And notice this data was cut. That's what Control X does. So Control X, it's sort of like a scissors, where if you cut it, it's gonna totally remove it from where you selected it. It's not going to be there anymore. Whereas when we did that copy of this data and we moved it down here, it left that data up here. So copy keeps the data. So if I do Control C and move it down here, the data that I originally selected stays there. Where if I do Control X, so let me do Control X over here. I'll do Control X and then Control V. It removes that data. It cuts it. Like you're not going to be able to see it where it originally was. So why are these so important? Well, because you're going to have to move data around the worksheet very frequently in Excel. And you use these shortcut keys in conjunction with each other. So you use Control C and Control V in conjunction. So you press Control C to copy the data, you select a cell and you press Control V. If you want to cut the data, you press Control X and then you press Control V. So let's do it again just to make sure you get this. So I'm going to highlight that cell, I'm going to clear it out. Okay, let's do a copy. You highlight a range, press Control C, you select a cell, you press Control V. That's a copy. And to get this to stop the border to stop moving, you press Escape. Okay, so that's a copy. Control C and Control V. That's a copy. Now let's do a Control X, cut. So let's cut this data here and move it over here. So I'm going to press select this cell by clicking on this cell and dragging my cursor up to select that range. Now I press Control X and then I'm going to press Control V. And it cut the data from here and moved it over here. So I should really make this a different color because this one is sort of used, you use this together or you use these together, right? You always do Control C and then Control V or Control X and then Control V. Let me clear this out. And I want to show you up here in this clipboard area. So what is this clipboard area up here? If I click on this, this clipboard is actually where the data goes to when you copy or cut something. So watch this. So again, if I click on this little toggle button here, this little clipboard, you want to be aware of the clipboard because the clipboard it holds items for you to put on your worksheet. So watch. If I highlight this data and press Control C, now I have something on my clipboard, and all I need to do is select a cell here and go up here and go paste all, and it'll paste it. So there's many ways of doing this Control C, Control V functionality. You can do Control C here and then go to your clipboard and select paste. At that time you don't need to do Control V because you could click this paste button here. Similarly, if I want to cut something, I just select the range and go Control X. And now again I have this something on my clipboard, and I could go down here and press paste again, and paste all is going to paste both of these in here. If you just want to paste a single one, watch this. If I just want to paste a single one, I just do paste here. So this clipboard is pretty powerful too because it shows you what are you, let me clear all this out again. And you could also clear the clipboard by doing this, clear all. So the clipboard, it shows you what it sort of is a holding place for any data that you want to paste later on. So you could have 50 things on your clipboard, and for instance, if I do Control C, and let me do Control C over here. So now I have two things on my clipboard. I could go to a different worksheet, and I could click Paste All, and it's just going to paste everything on my clipboard. So because I put these two ranges on my clipboard right here, when I selected paste all on this other worksheet, it just puts it on the worksheet. If I just want to put one thing, then you go to the clipboard, you select one thing, and you could just click it, or you could go in here and go paste, and it'll paste it for you. So that's what the clipboard does. It's just a holding place. That's why they call it a clipboard, just like a board, not a physical board, but it's in memory on the computer that holds data for you to paste and things like that. Okay, so now you know what the clipboard is, this little thing here. Or if you don't have Excel 2010, I don't think it'll look like this, but the clipboard still exists in other versions of Microsoft Excel. So whenever you see something about the clipboard, this is what it's talking about. It's talking about a place in the memory of the computer where it holds data that you can paste whenever you want. And you could copy these things and you could paste them on other worksheets. You could move it over to this worksheet or this worksheet. Or if you had 100 worksheets, you could go down to the 90th worksheet and you could paste your data. So that's the clipboard. Now, we went over how to use Control C and Control V. Let me just make this clear here. I'm just going to make this clear. So here's how you copy data and clear contents. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to take off this coloring and I'm going to recolor it orange. And then I'm going to copy this. So I selected this range real quick. I selected that range. I copy. I go down here and then I do Control V. And I just want to show you to cut data. Because I just wanted to make it clear that here's the keystrokes you need to copy and to cut data. Okay, so this is pretty clear now. To copy data, you press Control C and then you press Control V. And to cut data, you press Control X and then you press Control V. Notice Control V is in both of them because the paste function you're going to use in both. Now, there's this area up here called the clipboard on the menu. And if you don't have this version of Microsoft Excel, you're still going to see this scissors that has cut next to it and this two papers that have copy. And this basically does exactly what these things do here. So cut, if you just hover over it, it says Control X, and that's what the keyboard shortcut is. If you hover over copy, it says Control C, and that's what this keyboard shortcut is. And so let's do the same thing using the ribbon here. So if we select this range, I can go up here and I could go to copy. I could go down here to A7, and now there's this paste, and look at, there's a clipboard behind it. So it all sort of makes sense, right? There's a clipboard, there's this button, there's this icon with a clipboard, and now you can paste. And let's just click paste, and so there you could do it. You could copy and paste things from these buttons up here versus the keyboard shortcuts. Professional Excel users, they always use the keyboard shortcuts because it's quicker. It takes some time to move your mouse up here and drag that and hit that button. You could also do the cut functionality from up here. So if I select this and I go to cut, and then I select another cell over here and I go to paste, it will it will do exactly what the cut functionality does, but only I did it from up here. Okay, now I'm going to drag this. Notice this range is highlighted, so I can go up here and I can put the crosshairs on it, and I can drag it over here. And now I want to just show you that when you paste something, so if I go up here and I go copy, and then up here there's a drop down list. And what is all this stuff? Well, when you want to paste something, you could paste values, or you could paste formulas. So in this case, let's do something else here. Let me clear this out, and I'm going to put a formula in here. I'm going to write equals 100 times 9,000, and then equals put another formula for San Francisco, equals 1,000 times 800. Now I'm just doing this to show you that with formulas you can paste things, or you could not paste things. Watch. Put 100 times 700. So now I have formulas in here. So when I copy this, I go down here and I select a cell. I could go to paste, and I could go paste values. And if I do that, I don't have a formula anymore. Notice up here, when I copied it, it has a formula in it. But if I only paste values, then it doesn't copy the formula. It only copies the value. So that's called pasting the values. Let me clear this out again. And now I'll show you, if you just do Control C, and then you go down here and you just do a regular paste, if you just do Control V, then it does keep the formula. So it gives you some options, and typically how a professional Excel user would do this, let me clear this out again, is they would copy the data with Control C. They would select a cell, and they would right click, and they would go to these paste options, and you could select paste a regular paste, or a paste value, or paste formulas, or you could transpose the data. So if you select this transpose, it takes everything, it takes the columns and it sets them up as rows. So if I scroll over this, notice what it's doing. It's sort of giving me a preview of if I hit this button, that's what it'll give me. It takes the columns, that is the city up here, city, New York, Paris, San Francisco, and now it makes it a row. So that's what this transpose does. So see how in the top, city is a column, whereas in row 8, city is now a row. So that's transpose. You could transpose formatting. You could transpose links. So this paste functionality, this Control V functionality, it offers all these options. Tons and tons of options. You could paste values. You could paste formulas. We saw that if we pasted the values, we don't get the formula. And then we saw that what the transpose does. So let me do transpose. So I'll do Control C. I'll go down here. I'll right click and I'll go to transpose. And now this is what a pasting when I selected the transpose option, which is this one here. And you can see it gives you arrows that says like a column is going to be a row, and that's what it did here. So this column here is now a row here. That's transposing data. And this column here is now a row here. And that's used somewhat frequently in Excel. You should know about that, transposing data. But the two most frequently used ones, I'll clear this out, are just a regular paste, which is Control C and then Control V, like this. That maintains the formula. and then a paste special values, which is a Control C, and then you got to go here and go values. So this one doesn't have the formulas. Now why are they used like that? Well, because sometimes you don't want the formulas to move, you just want the values. So that's an introduction to copying and pasting, and you could play around with these other options up here. One of the other options is let me copy this again. I'm gonna paste it down here. Now, what you can do, there's actually three that are frequently used: the regular paste, the paste special values, which is what we saw when you right click up here. Let's see, this one here, paste values. So this one is used very frequently. The regular pasting, the paste special values is very much used, and then the formatting is very much used. So for instance, if I want to make the background color of this area orange, I can copy this and I can go over here and go paste special formatting. And notice what happens. It takes this format, which is the top row. The first row is bold, the next two are not bold, and the background color is orange. It takes that format and applies it here. So that I just pasted formats from this here to this here. Let me do that again. Let's say I want to make the background color of this this red color. So I could just select one cell and go copy, and I could then select all these cells and do right click and do paste special and go down to this formatting, and now I did that. But notice, because I only selected one cell, the format of that cell has a background of red. These cells up here are not bold anymore. So you have to, when you do paste special formats, you're going to get exactly the format that you are selecting from. In the first case, when we did this one, if I do this again, Control C, and then I select this whole range, and I do paste special formats again down here. Again, you get the first row bold and the next two are not, which is what you get here. First row bold, next two are not, and then the next row, you know, it's like a 3-row format, right? So that's what you're getting here. Okay, so that's a very good, I think it's a good introduction to copying and pasting. And the same thing works for well, cutting. You could when you cut things, you could also do paste specials here. So you could paste. You could use these paste special options anytime you want to cut or copy data. So the paste special options come into play right here at this time. So you press Control C when you go to paste it. You know, if you just press Control V, you're going to get a regular paste. It's not going to. I'm going to delete these cells. If you press Control V, you're just going to get a regular paste. You're not going to have a paste option up here. So if you want to do any of those things we just saw, like paste the formulas or paste the formats or paste the values, then you don't want to use Control V. You want to use something. You want to do Control C and then do right click and then go to these paste special options. Okay. Okay. So the last thing I want to show you is, let's see, how to do AutoFill. So AutoFill is pretty cool. Let me insert a column here. So I'm going to do insert, and I'm just going to do, let's see. for some reason, let's say we want 10% of the population. So let's do a formula. Equals this times 0.1. And I press enter. Okay, so what is autofill? Well, autofill is the ability to copy this formula down rows or columns or however you want. So if I want to get this formula into these two cells, I could go like this. I could do Control C, and then I could highlight this range, and I could do Control V. And if I do that, it worked, right? It puts this formula, which is the cell next to it times 0.1, it did that for these two cells. And it's smart because I didn't have to change B3. It knew that it wanted B3. It knew that I wanted B3. But that was kind of slow because I had to copy and paste things. So let me clear this out. A faster way to do it is to drag, if you want this formula in those two cells, you can just go over here and select that cell, and you'll see at the bottom right there's that little square. When you hover over that, your cursor gets those crosshairs like that, and you could then left click and drag that formula down, and that'll do the same thing. So you can see I just drag the formula. So that's very powerful to be able to get things into your cells real quick. Let me clear it out. All you need to do is click on the cell and drag it down, and it'll work. Let me clear it out again. An even faster way. So that was pretty fast, but this is faster. If you just go over to that corner and you just double click, that automatically fills that data, which is very, very fast. Let me show you that again. You just click on the cell you want to get into these other cells, and you just double click, and it brings that formula down that column. So it's very fast. Let's do it. So this was vertically, now let's do horizontal. So let's put a total here, and let's put a equals sum equals, let's do this plus this plus this. Okay, so now we have a summing formula here that takes the top three cells and sums them up. So how do we get it to this cell here? Well, again, you could do Control C. You could do if you press Control C on this cell and then select this cell and do Control V, that will do the job. It copied this formula and it applied that formula to this column. So it moved it over to C2, C3, and C4. Notice what's going on though. When you're copying these formulas, it's not taking these exact formulas, B2, B3, B4. When you move it to a new cell, it adjusts the cells that are in the formula based on where you move the formula. So if I take this formula here and I do Control C and go all the way down here to H, then look at what the formula is. It's H. So it doesn't take B2, B3, B4. It adjusts it based on where you pasted it. And I'll show you what in some other videos, if you really wanted to keep those B2, B3, B4, how you can do that. But for right now, when you copy and paste something, it's going to adjust it to the new position. And similarly, if you don't want to copy and paste it, you can just click the cell and then drag the formula over. And if you had many formulas here, you could just drag. Let me insert another column here. If I just drag this over, two more, then look at what I have. I have D2, D3, D4, and I have E3, E4, E2, E3, E4. So if I ever put numbers in here, then I'm gonna get a a sum for that total. And again, let me fill these up real quick. I'll just double click here and I'll double click here, and notice when you double click that, if you just hard code a value in, it copies that hard coded value all the way down. So let me show you that again. If you double click this, it's not a formula, it's just a number. If you double click it, it's going to automatically fill the rest of these cells with that same number. So if I double click, it fills it with the same number. Same here. Double click, fills it with the same number. Now watch. If you select both of these cells and you double click, it drags this column down. It drags these columns there, or it puts that number in those two cells and this number in those two cells. So you could have multiple columns that you're working with when you do this sort of autofill functionality. So it's very powerful. You could select, let me clear all this out, and now watch this. I'll just select all 4 columns and I'll just double click this lower right, and automatically it did exactly what we want. So it's very powerful, the autofill functionality. So don't ever try to copy this cell and then paste it here. That's very time consuming. Just double click it or drag it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show in this video. Is let me just do a summary. I'm going to clear this data out. And I'm going to save this workbook. And to save a workbook, you go to File, you go Save As, and I'm going to name this, I'm going to name it Drag Cut, Copy, Paste, and then Autofill. And let's see, Desktop. Okay, so what did we learn in this video? Well, we learned about the clipboard that allows us to put things on the clipboard, which is this thing here. It's a digital, it's on your computer. It's not a physical clipboard, but it's just a place where you can cut and copy things. And we learned that cut and copy are critical. So if you're going on a job interview, like I said, they might ask you about this. So you need to know how you can copy data. And it's very easy. Just Control-C, Control-V, Control-X, Control-V. It's fast because an employer is not going to want you to use these buttons all the time. It's pretty time consuming. So practice around with Control-C and Control-V and Control-X and Control-V, and then practice around with the clipboard, and even copy and pasting things from this sheet to that sheet. So that's one thing that we learned. The other thing that we learned is how you can select a range and then drag it by getting those crosshairs and dragging it somewhere. And the other thing that we learned is about this this autofill. So if you have if you want to get this formula down in these other cells, you can drag it, or you can just double click it. Notice if you double click it, it's going to overwrite any other formula. So I had a formula in here previously. Watch this. If I double click this, it drags the whole formula down, right? Let me change these numbers around. So that's how you do it. You double click it to get the formula all the way down the column, or alternatively you can drag it. And it works for both columns and rows. We saw that I could drag this over here. Okay, so that's how to drag stuff, cut, copy, paste stuff, and use the autofill functionality. As a reminder, go to Excel, VBASQL.com. There's 20 hours of video for you to watch. Put your email in here and we'll send you emails when free videos go up. Okay, I'll talk to you next video. Remember, contact me here if you have any questions or need to know stuff. Okay, bye.